Rosna livada, trava zelena. Rosna livada, man, trava zelena.
The Battle of Kosovo. Dawn broke over the battlefield with a cold silence. Whispering through the blackbird's field, Kosovo polje, as if it knew what was coming. Prince Lazar Hrebeljanović stood among his knights and lords, a tall figure draped in mail and bearing the cross of his faith. Around him, banners flapped, emblems of Serbian nobility, Albanian allies, Bosnian vassals. A Christian coalition, loosely bound by a common threat, the Ottoman Sultan Murad I, whose forces had pushed ever deeper into the Balkans. Prince Lazar Hrebeljanović, at the helm of the Christian coalition army, numbering some 20,000 strong, marched his force fearlessly toward the Ottoman position, signaling to all that he and his fellow countrymen would not back down from this growing Ottoman hegemony. The noble lord of Serbia had summoned his loyal vessels and banners to accompany him into battle. Vuk Branković, his loyal son-in-law, and Vlatko Vuković, the war chief of Bosnia. Prince Lazar knew the stakes. This was not just any battle. It was Serbia's future on the line. The fate of the Balkans and the limits of Ottoman expansion would all be decided here. The two opposing armies met upon the field of Kosovo, the field of the Blackbirds. The Ottomans had come in strength. Some 30,000 soldiers across their vast empire lined the field. A vast and mighty force bearing the green banners of Islam. They significantly outnumbered their Serbian foe. Their force consisted of Janissaries, Sipahis, and Azabs. They gathered on the far edge of the field. At their center was the Sultan himself, Murad I, Lord of the Ottoman Empire, an aging man of resolve and cunning. He was flanked by his son Bayezid, commanding his right flank, and his son Yakub, commanding his left flank. Both were capable commanders for their respectively young age. The Sultan was protected by his elite guard of Janissaries and his heavily armored Kapikulu Sipahi cavalry. This was tradition, for when the Ottoman sultans of the empire personally commanded on the field of battle. Murad had opted to take a defensive stance, knowing full well it would be unwise to meet the heavy Serbian and Christian cavalry on the open field of battle. His plan ultimately was to provoke Lazar to go on the offensive, allowing his army, which was highly adaptable, to maneuver accordingly. Once in range of one another, both forces opted to fire their cannons before engaging, but to no effect as they were out of range, and early cannons in this period were not very effective. The cannon fire ceased. Then Prince Lazar Hrebeljanović gave the signal. His heavy cavalry advanced. Picking up momentum, they violently thundered across the plain. Ottoman archers were dispatched to attempt to slow down the Christians, but to no effect, as they were brushed aside effortlessly. The heavy Christian cavalry smashed into the Ottoman front lines. Chaos across all sides ensued, and men fell in droves. The Serbians had initial success in pushing back the Ottomans, inflicting heavy casualties from the initial shock charge, cutting through the light Turkic Azap infantry like a hot knife through butter. The Christian right flank had inflicted the most damage towards Jakub's Ottoman left. The right, commanded by Vuk Branković, continued to advance and gain ground. Jakub's contingent, utterly outmatched and outclassed on the battlefield, slowly began to lose their cohesive formation. Many gave way and some even broke and fled. Amidst the chaos of the battle came a moment that became legend. Many sources, including Serbian, Bosnian, and Ottoman, all differ on the exact account of the events, though the final outcome seemingly all identical. According to some Bosnian sources, a group of Serbian knights and noblemen, perhaps no more than 10 or 12, particularly one known as Miloš Obilić, broke away from the battle atop their horses and charged directly toward the main Ottoman camp. Miloš and co. were either captured or pretended to defect, sources differ, gained access to Sultan Murad's tent. There, without hesitation, he swiftly lunged toward the Sultan, stabbing him to death before being cut down by the Sultan's guard, sacrificing himself in the act. The first and only Ottoman Sultan to fall in battle killed by the hand of a Serbian knight. Although having lost their Sultan, the battle was far from over. Murad's eldest son, Bayezid, immediately assumed command. He acted swiftly to prevent the left flank from collapsing. He successfully sent reinforcements to plug the gaps and restore morale among the troops, whilst the Ottoman center and right flank were holding strong. Having lost the momentum of their heavy cavalry charge, the Serbian allied forces were now tied down and forced into rugged, unorganized, hand-to-hand combat with the more lightly armored and maneuverable Turkic infantry. Remarkably, Bayezid organized his men and was able to form a counteroffensive on his right flank against Vlatko Vuković and his Bosnian contingents. Vlatko was unable to control his men, as they began to lose cohesion and started fleeing the battlefield. This was the beginning of the end for the Serbian Allied army, as their left flank had completely disintegrated, leaving the rest of the army vulnerable and fully exposed. Any chance of the Serbians pulling off a miraculous comeback was completely decimated when Vuk Branković, commander of the Serbian right flank, ordered an orderly retreat of his men. There are many different theories on why he may have done this. Some speculate that it was a tactical withdrawal, as the battle was lost when the Serbian left flank had fled. Thus Branković wanted to preserve his soldiers in order to fight another day against the Ottomans, as opposed to let them die in vain. Others speculate that Branković may have retreated to ensure Prince Lazar was slain in battle. Thus he conspired to take the Serbian throne once Lazar was dead. Whatever the case may have been, the retreat by Branković was the final nail in the coffin for the Serbian allied forces. Soon after he fled, Bayezid rallied the Ottomans and crushed the remaining Christian forces. Prince Lazar was captured and executed shortly after. To ensure his legal ascension to the throne as Sultan, and to prevent any civil wars, Bayezid, along with Ottoman commanders, seized his brother Yakub, executing his very own brother on the spot. The field was covered with the dead. Both armies suffered catastrophic losses, so much so that neither could mount major offensives for years. It was a Pyrrhic victory for the Ottomans, yet it marked the beginning of their dominance in the Balkans. Serbia fell into vassalage. Over the next century, one by one, Balkan kingdoms would come under Ottoman rule. But the myth of Kosovo endured. In Serbian epic poetry, Lazar became a martyr, Obilic, a sainted assassin, and Kosovo Polje, a symbol of sacrifice and national identity.